Hey, how you doing? My name is Roger Rollins. I'm the general manager at Great Lakes Truck Driving School. I'm here to pretty much go in detail regarding what you need to do in regards to the CDL Temporary Permit, preparing for that, etc. Because for the most part, most all of our students do the temporary permit on their own before they begin school. We have a lot of out-of-staters coming from all over the country. The admissions reps that you've already spoke to, you should have already spoke to one of our admissions reps here at the school. They are going to mail you information, email you information, a lot of the information I have here in front of me now. Then mainly when you arrive in Ohio to start school, you would do this, the temporary permit here at one of our license bureaus. The closest one, actually, one of our exam centers is about 10 minutes from our location. So this is to prep everybody that's in the state of Ohio to do this before you begin school. For those that's coming out of state, your admissions rep is going to get you all the information so you can prepare to study for this that I'm going to getting ready to go over with you now. And then when you arrive, you should be ready to go take the test at one of our license bureaus close to the school. And of course the admissions rep will direct you on all that, where to go, what to do. What I'm doing here today is I'm going to explain, this is probably going to take 10 minutes is all. I'm going to explain about how you study for the temporary permit, all the endorsements, along with when you go to take the test, some helpful hints, I guess, is a way of putting it, when you're taking all these exams. If you're doing a Class A CDL or you're doing a Class B CDL, it will vary a bit, and I'm going to go over that here in a moment as well. The other thing is if you're taking one of our 600-hour courses, the admissions rep would already talk to you about that. He would have talked to you about the 600-hour programs to see if you even qualify for it. But if you're doing one of our 600-hour courses, the temporary permit is being done all while you're here in school. The instructors are going to go over all this with you while you're attending. We'll take you for your tests. Fingerprinting for the Hazmat that I'm going to talk about. All that is part of the program. But the majority of students are going to be taking a course where you get the temporary before you begin, along with the hazardous material, fingerprinting, and so on. So I'm going to go over all that. Your admissions rep, most of you have already spoke with your admissions rep in person. But for those of you that are coming from 2, 3, 4, 5 hours away, 12 hours away, 30 hours away, most of your conversations has been probably just on the phone. So with all that being said, what admissions will do is they will schedule a phone appointment with you after hours or on Saturday where there's not as many interruptions that's typically happening on a consistent basis during the day where they're getting a lot of calls. To really spend 30 or 40 minutes with you on the phone explaining not only what I'm talking to you now about, but all about our programs and our placement assistance and everything that we provide. So, but like I said, the majority of you have already met with an admissions rep or talked with an admissions rep, and he told you about this video on our website or DVD or however you're watching it now. But this is explaining the temporary permit to you in the hazardous material. Okay, mainly, in order to get a Class A CDL, there's 3 different tests that you have to take. General knowledge, air brakes, and combination vehicle. At minimum, those are the 3 tests that you have to take in order to have just a basic Class A temporary permit. If you're doing a Class B, then the 3 tests that you must take is general knowledge, air brakes, and passenger endorsement, which is the bus. So general knowledge, air brakes, combination vehicle for the A, general knowledge, air brakes, and passenger for the B. Now there is an option which a lot of people take advantage of where they get the passenger on top of the A, and I'll get into that here in a moment as well. But ultimately what you're doing is we just, unless, like I said, you're doing one of the 600-hour courses, we don't spend time in class actually going over the the temporary. It is something that you can easily do on your own. You just got to put some studying time in, obviously. And then when you feel you're ready to pass all these tests, then you go to the nearest exam center to your home. That could be Cuyahoga Falls, Barberton, Medina, Elyria, Parma, Golden Gate, Mayfield, Painesville, Fairport Harbor, Ravenna, Ashtabula, Mansfield, Ashland, Columbus, Norwalk, Perrysburg outside of Toledo. But, and then all of you people coming from out of state, mainly you're going to the Elyria one, which is about 10 minutes from our facility. So that's the one that you would be directed to once you start school, because that would take place pretty much within the first couple days of school. It's just the key is you want to prepare and study before you start school. Once again, unless you're doing one of our 600-hour courses, that's all part of our program. These right here are what I call mock tests, okay? We have a number of sample questions to assist you. We have the answers. And then in the back of this, we have what I call cheat sheets. They're pretty much just true facts. They're just true statements. Those are real helpful as well. So it's a good idea to, in my opinion, actually, it's a good idea to read the cheat sheets. It's officially called key facts. First, they're just true statements. And then you go and you start giving yourself these mock tests and see how you do, and don't cheat, by looking at the answer key, which is in the back. And then redo the test and redo them until you get to a point where you're testing, you're doing very well. Mainly, in order to pass the official test, you need 80% or better on each individual test that you take. This is the official CDL book from the License Bureau. If you've already been into our school, our admissions reps has already handed you one of these. You can also go to the Ohio BMV website, and then they have a copy of it. And or if needed and you're an out-of-stater, one of our admissions reps can send this to you. This is what you need to study. Okay, but when we give you these mock tests and these key facts, that's pretty helpful. I mean, it kind of helps put things together for you, I guess is a way of putting it. I mean, mainly it gets right to it. Okay, but don't disregard studying this book. This is the official book. These questions we're giving you here, these are mock questions. They change them. They reword them on a consistent basis. So you may, or probably almost guaranteed, will come across questions that you haven't seen in these. So that's why it's very important to read the book along with the key facts in the back. Because if you know the information, you know it, even if they change the question up a little bit. So in this book here, the way it is worded, it's broken down into small little sub-chapters, and you're studying this material, and then at the end of that small little sub-chapter, there's going to be like mock tests. They're labeled test your knowledge, and then there'll be a number of questions. Well, the answers to those questions are in the previous 3 or 4 pages leading up to those questions. So you definitely want to get to a point where you're reading the book, and then at the test your knowledge questions at the end of that little chapter, you need to get to a point where you know that information and you can answer those questions. So the key is study. Once you start doing well in this book, once you start doing well here, you're ready to take the test. Now let me get in, and I'm gonna coach you on the test a little bit here in a moment as well. But let me get into the endorsements that's involved here. I already went over. Repeated a couple times on the general knowledge air brakes combination vehicle is what you need for the Class A. The general knowledge air brakes and passenger is what you needed for the B. There's additional endorsements that are involved, okay, and those are tankers. Tankers is a tanker. Tankers could be a water truck, but in many cases it could be hazardous material. So you need a hazmat endorsement, which I'll get to in a moment, along with the tanker endorsement. But pretty much it mainly means you can be endorsed to drive a tanker vehicle by just passing a 20-question exam. If you pass that 20-question exam when you go to the License Bureau, and you take all the mandatory ones that we've talked about, and then you decide to get the tanker endorsement, and you study the tanker section, because there's a section in here on tanker, and there's a section in here on tanker. and you pass that, then that goes on your temporary permit. And then once you pass our school, then you do a driving test at the end of our program, which is obviously what we're preparing you for, and that's all done through us. Then the tanker endorsement will go on to your CDL license. So you'll permanently have the tanker endorsement for years on end at that point. It just stays on your license. Most tanker companies will require experience. They're not going to hire grads right out of our school. But to be surprised, there's a decent amount that do. It's just the majority ask for experience. So you can get tanker jobs in some cases directly out of school. But in a lot of cases, yes, you do need experience for those companies because usually there's major hazardous material in those, and they don't hire graduates right out of school. But ultimately, all you have to do is take a 20-question exam, and you have it now. See, what happens is once you get your CDL license and you decide 6 months or 2 years down the road that you want to get additional endorsements added onto your license, then you got to pay all this. They charge you all these fees to get an additional endorsement added onto your license after the fact. So my opinion is get as many of these endorsements up front just so you have it in case someone offers you a job and you already have it. And the other thing is it saves you money in the long run as well. And tanker is really actually probably the easiest test out of all of them. Doubles and triples is the next endorsement. Doubles and triples, they definitely do not hire graduates out of school. Okay, that's where you see that obviously the tractor trailer with 2 trailers or even 3. They definitely, all of them, ask for people with experience. But once again, all it is a 20-question exam. And if you take it now along with all the others, then mainly ultimately that means is when you go pass our driving test at the end of our program with us through the state of Ohio, and you passed everything, so they're going to give you a CDL license, then doubles and triples is just added on your license, and you have it forever. So if a year down the road someone offers you a job driving doubles or triples, you already have the endorsement. So, and once again, they would charge you fees if you want to get it later. So it's really saves you money to do it all up front. Now, if you're doing the Class B only, then you don't need doubles and triples. You can't get doubles and triple endorsement only if you're only getting a Class B CDL. So disregard doubles and triples altogether if you're only going for a Class B. Now, hazardous material, that is universal, whether you're A or B. It's pretty important. I mean, it is. I've been involved with this for 18 years thus far, and hopefully many more. And the hazmat is when you haul things in bulk. I mean, you don't really consider them hazardous material, but when you haul it in bulk, it's now considered hazardous material. I mean, it could be things like hairspray and whiteout and pine sol. I mean, there's so many little things. I mean, you could be a delivery driver going from store to store to store. You could be a long haul over the road driver. You could be working on an oil rig site and they have brine water and different hazardous material things. There's so many things that is considered hazmat. What I'm seeing with a lot of companies is they're doing things like this. They say, we'll pay you so much an hour, and we'll pay you $1.50 more an hour if you have the hazmat endorsement. Or on every hazmat load, we're going to give you 4 cents more a mile or 3 cents more a mile. Or on every non-hazmat load, meaning just if you got it, we're just going to pay you automatically $0.015 more per mile. So ultimately, if you ever go to a company and a company says to you, or you ask them, because this is part of school and we go over all this while you're in school, but you're asking, you have 15, 20, 50 job offers, and because we have a lot of companies that hire out of here from all over. And one question we always tell students that they should ask these employers is, do you require the hazmat endorsement? If you get a company saying, no, but we prefer you to have it, then what that means is they have hazmat loads that come up periodically. So ultimately, they don't want to lose you as a driver, so they're not requiring you to get it because they want you to still be a driver for their company, but it mainly means that you usually will have more options, more work, or more pay if you have the endorsement. So typically, if you compare your paycheck to a co-driver with that same company and they have it and you don't, then you're going to usually see that they're always going to make more money than you. So in my opinion, hazmat's really important, but plus since 9/11, it seems like the government has added on more and more things onto the hazmat, and like they consider it hazardous material. So it's just pretty important these days. So it's not mandatory. It's not required for our school, but it is something that we highly recommend that you seriously consider getting. I'm going to talk about what you have to do on the hazmat because there's something more to it. You got to get fingerprinted and so on, and I'm going to talk about that here in a moment. We're almost finished, but I do want to explain a little bit more about these tests. I've already went over the ones that are required for the A, and I've already went over the ones that are required for the B. So you've been studying all this material. If you're coming from out of state, just study it, be ready to go, take all these tests, and you'll know when you're ready. I mean, when you start giving yourself these mock tests and you're acing them all, you're going to be fine. When you get here, we're going to send you to the local license bureau around the corner. So keep that in mind, no big deal there. If you're here and you're in Ohio, then there's no sense of waiting till you start school because you could easily just do it before you start school. So we want you to get it before you start. So mainly you've been studying everything. Now you need to go to your nearest exam center. Okay, keep in mind it's not just a place you renew your license plates. Okay, it has to be an exam center. Like when you or your kid went for their regular driver's exam, it's an exam center, and that's one of those places. So just to rattle off a few in this area: Ashland, Elyria, Parma. I might even have mentioned it earlier, I think, with all the different places. So mainly, you just want to go to an exam center. There's no appointment necessary at any of those locations. You just show up Tuesday through Saturday, and you must be there by 1 o'clock. So when you feel you're ready, you show up at one of those exam centers, and you just walk in. You must have your driver's license on you. You just tell them, hi, I'm here to get my Class A CDL Temporary Permit, or I'm here to get my Class B CDL Temporary Permit. And they're going to say, well, have you taken any tests yet? You're like, no, this is my first time. They're going to enter you in the system and everything. Then at that point, they're going to say, okay, you ready to take the test? You're like, ready? I'm ready. And then they're going to bring you to one of the computers. You got to get 80% or better on each test, as I mentioned earlier. But in general knowledge is the first test they give you. If you do not pass general knowledge, they will not let you take any of the next test. So you got to pass general knowledge. Once you pass general knowledge, then you can move on at that point, and you can do air brakes, combination vehicle, hazardous material, tanker, doubles and triples, passenger bus. You can do as many as you want. And even if you happen to fail one of those tests, you can move on and take the next test. It's not a big deal if you fail any of these tests. Don't be too hard on yourself if you would do so. It's no big deal. You just go home, restudy, a couple days later, return to the license bureau and say, I failed air brakes, or I failed combination vehicle, and I'd like to try it again. Once you've done the test once, usually you have a pretty good idea how the test works and how it operates, and then the second time around, most everybody gets through it. A lot of people get through it all on the first try. But you got to pass general knowledge before you can even try any of the others. So keep that in mind. You really want to study general knowledge because if you don't get through that, you can't even take any of the other tests. They're untimed tests, and they're on the computer, okay? So it's one of those push-button things. So when you're taking these tests, take your time. Make sure you understand the question. That's the biggest part of it. They throw a if and not, but, never, something in there that really changes the whole what they're trying to ask you. So understanding the question is the most important thing of these tests. The other thing is, like I said, they're untimed, and you can also skip questions. So if you come across a question and you are totally stumped and you're like, I'm guessing at this one, and this is a total guess, skip it. But this is very important. You can't skip too many. If you skip too many, it'll bring you right back. Once you get through all the questions on the test, it'll bring you back to the first one you skipped, and they're not going to let you skip it a second time. So use those skips as a bonus, but don't go crazy on it. General knowledge is 50 questions. All the rest are 20 to 25 questions. So on general knowledge, you can actually skip up to like 10 questions, and then you're not going to be back to that first one you skipped and be forced to answer it a second time around. So you can actually do that. With the rest, you're talking 4 to 5. So just don't go crazy on the skips, but take advantage of the skips, okay? And keep in mind, these are all on-time tests. So you take your time. They're multiple choice, And a lot of times you can tell one or two are just definitely not it because it's something crazy. But, you narrow it down to a couple and then, hopefully you know the answer. But so you general knowledge, and then you move on right through the test. Now, this is the other option you have. You can skip. You don't have to take them all the same day. You could do general knowledge and then say that's it for the day. And then you just go back a couple days later, go back to the license bureau and say, hey, I was here the other day to do my CDL Temporary Permit, and I did general knowledge. I'm here today. I want to take a couple more. So you could take one or two one day, wait a couple days, do another one or two, wait a couple days, do another one or two. You can try them all the same day. As long as you get through general knowledge, you can take others, and even if you fail them, you can move on and take the next test that same day if you wish. So keep that in mind. You can skip questions. You can take one or two at a time, or you can take them all the same day. But if you happen to fail any, you could show up the next day and retry it again. So that is what you're doing on your own before you start, unless you're doing one of our 600-hour courses. And if you are coming from out of state, a lot of our out-of-staters will arrive on like Friday, and you could go to the license bureau on Saturday before a Monday class start. But worst case scenario, while you're in class, it's right around the corner, and we just send you up there for a couple hours. You take the test, and it's not a big deal. The instructors have you go when it's not what we call a state mandated material. So they have the times that they say this is the best time for you to run up to the license bureau, and then you get it done, and you're good to go. Now, the Hazmat, once again, if you're doing a 600-hour course, we do everything here. Along with the Hazmat, we take you to the fingerprint station, okay? And you get fingerprinted. But the Hazmat, that is what it's all about. There's more to it than just taking the exam. You got to do the exam, but then you got to get fingerprinted. So ultimately, what you're doing is you go to hazprints.com website. It's called Hazprints, HAZPRINTS.com, hazprints.com. Your admissions rep will tell you a little more about it, but mainly there's a phone number for you to call, or you can go to that website, meaning when you go to the website, there'll be a phone number on there. Ultimately, what you're doing, sorry about that, is you can call the number. What you got to do with to get your fingerprinting is you got to get registered first. Okay, so mainly when you call the 800 number, someone live will get on the phone after you go through a couple prompts, and then they'll say, "Can I help you?" And you're like, "Yeah, I was told to call this to get my fingerprinting," and they'll say, "No problem." They'll ask your name, social, birthday, and all that good stuff. And then they're going to, at that point, ask you a series of questions, like I said, your birth date and all that, and they, background information on you. It takes like 3 minutes. And then they're going to say, okay, you're registered. And they up it every once in a while, but right now it's $86.50. That's the fee that you pay. They'll say, do you want to pay now via Visa or MasterCard, debit card, credit card? Or do you want to pay via money order at the fingerprint station? Okay. So then at that point, you tell them however you want to pay. So if you get it paid, boom, they register in the system that it's already been paid. If you say, I want to do a money order, then you just got to get a money order for $86.50, and then you just show up with a blank money order, and they'll have you write it out to them when you arrive. They don't accept cash. So what you do first is you got to register. So you can do it through the website where you don't have to talk to a live person, which seems like nowadays that's a lot of people prefer to do that. I'm old-fashioned, I guess. I like to talk to someone on the phone. Or you could do the phone and just call them, whatever. So either way, it doesn't matter. You could do it on the website or you could call. Either way, it's going to ask for the money, or it's going to have a money order checkbox, or the live person's going to say, how do you want to pay? And you tell them how you want to pay. Now you are registered. Now you could show up the next day if you want. The fingerprint stations are only open Monday through Friday during business hours. When you go to the Hazprints website, you put in your zip code and it'll give all your locations. Pretty much Akron, Cuyahoga, or not Cuyahoga Falls, but Fairlawn Montrose in Akron, 77 and Route 18, Perrysburg and Toledo, Columbus, or Cincinnati is the only 4 fingerprint stations in the whole state. So some of you are going to have to travel a good distance to get to that fingerprint station. So ultimately, you do the exam, but you got to get fingerprinted, because if you don't get fingerprinted, then the exam's for naught. it just drops off. So you got to get fingerprinted, and you need to get fingerprinted at least 2 weeks before you take your state driving test, because it takes a couple weeks for the clearance to come through. And you'll get a letter mailed to your home stating that you've been cleared. So that's what the deal is on the fingerprinting. You can do the fingerprinting. A lot of people choose to do this, which is fine. You can do the fingerprinting before you even take any of the exams. Just get fingerprinted, get it out of the way because you need to anyway. And then you do the permit a week or two later. It doesn't matter what sequence you do it in. Sometimes the people at the License Bureau will say stuff to you like, oh, you haven't did your fingerprinting. No, they give you a hard time for whatever reason. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them, on if you haven't got fingerprinted. So keep in mind, really getting fingerprinted, you could actually do that first. Get that done and out of the way. But it doesn't matter. You just got to do both. So if you go to that website, it'll give you phone numbers. It'll give you locations, addresses. But keep in mind, you can always talk to our admissions reps, and they're going to be able to help you out. It's just this is helping them out. I'm giving detailed information regarding this information, but they are always available. You just call your admissions rep and they'll talk to you more about all this stuff. But so mainly, the more endorsements you get, the better for you. If you're doing your Class A, you can also get your passenger on top of your A. So then ultimately that means you'd be covering everything. See, the passenger works a little different because you're dealing with people. And so it's not like tankers that we talked about or doubles and triples. You got to actually take a separate driving test in a bus. Well, there's more training involved. There's a second driving test involved. So we have to charge more for that. So some people choose to do that or they choose not to do that. And that's obviously up to you. But if you want that also, then you want to take the passenger endorsement also, which is all in this information we're giving you to help you study that, meaning you want to take the written exam on that as well at the License Bureau. If you're doing Class B, you got to do the passenger. But if you're doing the A, that's optional to you, and it's just up to you if you want to do that. So the passenger is a little bit different because you're dealing with people, so you got to take the driving test in a bus in order to be endorsed for that, and then you got to take the written exam on it before, so it's on your permit in order for you to practice on it and take a test in it. So that's ultimately what it boils down to. General knowledge, air brakes, combination vehicles, minimum what you need, which all this information is here that we're providing you with for the A. For B, it's general knowledge, air brakes, and bus, passenger. Tanker, everybody can get, whether you're doing a Class B or you're doing a Class A. Tanker, for instance, you know how you see those little fuel trucks or water trucks? They're just a straight truck, Class B vehicle, but it has a tanker on it. Well, you need the tanker endorsement, no matter if there's just water in there. If it's a tanker tractor trailer, then you need the tanker. And then if there's just water in it, that's all you need. But most of the time, it's not just water, as we all know. Most of the time, in these tankers, there's hazardous material. So then you need the hazmat endorsement along with the tanker endorsement. Doubles and triples, another endorsement you can get. 20-question exam is all it is. If you're doing Class A, like I said before, the more you get up front, the better for you. And it costs you less money down the road if you ever decide to get more endorsements after the fact. So mainly, ultimately, you just want to study this material, go to the nearest exam center, get these tests and done and out of the way, so when you enter school, you already have it. If you're doing one of our 600-hour courses, or you're an out-of-stater, then either the 600-hour course, it's part of the course where we're teaching you all this and taking you and doing it all. And if you're an out-of-stater, pretty much you're just coming in prepared to take it, and then you do it a couple days before you start class, depending on when you arrive in Ohio, or within the first few days of class, we just excuse you and you just go down to the License Bureau and take the exams, okay? And the admissions rep, there is a little bit more when you're coming out of state, and they explain that about switching the licenses over, which isn't a big deal at all. People do it all the time. So they'll be able to explain all that, but this is just giving you detailed information on it. All you have to do is study away, study this book, study the stuff we're giving you here, go to the License Bureau, the exam center closest to your home, and get all this stuff taken care of. So pretty much that's it about the CDL Temporary Permit. Keep in mind also on that is if you get a grant to do school, which in many cases a lot of people are able to get grants, in many cases a lot of those fees will be reimbursed to you. So keep that in mind, the fees we talked about, because actually when you do show up, this is one thing I forgot to mention earlier, when you show up to go for your temporary permit, they don't charge you any money until you're done all your tests. And then once you've done all your tests, then that's when they pretty much say $27. It costs you $27. So at that point, you'll have to give them the $27. And then if you get a grant, we reimburse that to you when you graduate. If you decide to get Hazmat, then a lot of grants will cover that as well, where you'll get that reimbursed to you when you graduate also. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, $86.50. So that's something your admissions rep can talk to you, but bottom line, you got to pay the permit, and then you do get that reimbursed when you graduate if you get a grant. If you don't get a grant, and a lot of people have to pay for it through loans or on their own, that's obviously just another fee. So the $27 is, you don't have to pay that until you finish all your tests. Then they're going to charge you $27, and then the permit is good for 6 months. So it's once you've done everything you want, it's good for 6 months at that point. So that obviously gives you plenty of time to do school. Other than that, that really should cover it. Give us a call if you have any additional questions. Really, that's about it. My name again is Roger Rollins. I'm the general manager here at Great Lakes. If you have any additional questions or help, you let us know. I'm going to get off the subject real quick. Regarding placement assistance in our school, if you want to hear this, mainly we are nationally accredited, which is very, very important. You don't have to be nationally accredited, but we chose to do that for various reasons. We train for the Department of Homeland Security. We are currently training for one of the biggest oil companies in the world right now. Those type of people, when they choose your school to do the training at, don't take it lightly. I mean, they really look into your school and want to make sure they're making the right decision on who they're choosing to train for. We also train for state employees, correction officers, things like that. So we have heavy equipment training. We have oil and gas certification courses because there's a lot of oil and gas moving into this part of the country, and that's really a big boom right now for people with CDLs, heavy equipment. And we have oil and gas certification courses that we're offering now that's directly relevant to those type of jobs. So we offer CDL training, heavy equipment training, and oil and gas certification courses. So we look forward to hearing from you. And if you decide to do school, just let your admissions reps know. And we hopefully look forward to seeing you as a student. And that's really that. Next, I'm going to talk about placement assistance a little bit. Placement, we work quite aggressively with our students on placement assistance. I mean, a lot of people come in and they're like, I already got a job, I just need the training. But the majority are like, hey, I need help. I'd like to see what type of opportunities that you have. And we not only deal with just the, I don't want to say normal companies, but big over-the-road long-haul carriers. And we have a lot of very good companies that hire at our school that is the case. They're what I call the big boys. But what we do also is we try to target a lot of smaller to mid-sized companies from our immediate area, along with when we have individuals or students coming from different areas of the country, we'll go in and target that area. That's the beauty of nowadays. You can go online and find things without picking up a local newspaper, and we'll go into that immediate area and start searching for jobs. We have our ways of doing it, and some of it's not Einstein stuff. It's pretty easy, but it just takes time. And we do have personnel here, multiple individuals here actually, and I spend actually some time on placement because that's where I started in this industry, and it's something I just enjoy. But we really work with our students very aggressively on placement to try to give them as many options as we possibly can, not only with big over-the-road long-haul carriers and regional carriers, but smaller to mid-sized type companies from various parts of the countries, depending on where our students are coming from at that particular time, along with a lot of oil and gas companies. There's tons of them now coming into this region that are crying for workers, whether it be heavy equipment operators, general laborers, CDL drivers. So, we have the construction opportunities, we have trucking opportunities, and we have oil and gas opportunities. So your admissions rep can explain that much more in detail to you. But mainly we do work with you very aggressively throughout school to help you to try to give you as many job opportunities as we possibly can. And we do have lifetime placement assistance for you. So again, that's really it. We look forward to hearing back from you. If you have any questions, give us a call. And hopefully we'll see you in a class starting soon. Thank you very much.